Recognize Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. President Biden and the ATF purposely decided to put a plan together to take millions of law-abiding citizens and turn them into felons after May 31st, just like that, through a rule on stabilizing braces, which is nearly a total ban. This action, despite prior guidance from the ATF, Mr. Bosco, as you testified earlier, to the contrary. Does that sound crazy? Of course it does, but this is just another day in Joe Biden's America. Inaction by this body is sanctioning a lawfully established good actor in the community, your company, Mr. Bosco. Let's just change the rules midstream. In order to register firearms under this proposal, gun owners are required to destroy, turn in, rebuild their guns, or fill out what is called a Form 1. This is the Form 1. It is a 17-page guidance on how to fill out a government form. This means that owners of up to 40 million braces will spend a collective 160 million hours registering their lawfully acquired firearms to comply with ATF's unconstitutional rule. Anyone who does not register, turn in, rebuild, or destroy their brace firearm by ATF's arbitrary deadline will be subject to a 10-year in federal prison or $250,000 per firearm. These aren't illegal guns. These are lawfully acquired guns. For perspective, in 2020, ATF reported they processed 512,000 National Firearms Act gun registration forms at that rate, assuming no further backlog and assuming all affected gun owners comply with gun registration date by May 31st. It would take the ATF over 78 years to process all of the pistol registration forms. The ATF is proposing regulations they aren't even capable of handling. Ms. Swear, who is in charge of making the rules, making law in the United States of America?
That would be Congress.
Would you say that it's a fair assessment that ATF is attempting to usurp Congress's powers and undermine the Second Amendment?
I think ATF in recent years has sought to do that in several ways, yes.
In what ways? Curious.
So as I noted both in my written and my opening remarks, so one of them is with this pistol brace rule. So Congress, yes, I think irrationally in 1934, but nonetheless did seek to regulate short barrel rifles. And ATF for a long time took the position that these were not short barrel rifles. And then just like that, it changed its mind and said we're going to override that. With respect to firearms themselves, ATF decided unilaterally that even though Congress said we can regulate firearms and frames and receivers of firearms, well, we think now we can regulate almost frames and almost receivers, which is really just a hunk of drilled out metal. It's not a functional firearm in and of itself. And in that way, we're going to claw back more power for ourselves. So I think you see this quite a bit of ATF not just interpreting the law, but intentionally misinterpreting the law to give itself more power.
The pistol brace ban is unconstitutional, it's irresponsible, and it's quite frankly downright maddening. In this poster behind me, you see two guns. Mr. Bosco, would option A or option B make you a felon under ATF's proposed rule?
Well, option B in 120 days will make you a felon.
Do you think the common American citizen would reasonably be able to distinguish which is the firearm of a felon versus a law-abiding citizen?
Well, that's the whole point here. I mean, this is what I was talking about. Again, I have no disagreement with Ms. Jackson-Lee. I have no disagreement with my colleague with respect to what the ATF does, but this is not what the ATF should be doing. The ATF is making a rule, okay, and they're saying that this rule has criminal implication. It circumvents the legislative process. That's what's happening here. All I'm saying, and all I have been saying, is that ATF should not be making laws. That's up to the people up in front of me.
What makes this firearm behind me illegal under the ATF proposed rule?
Well, essentially what they're saying, after 10 years of saying the opposite, is that the piece of plastic attached to the back of that firearm, which is a piece of rubber with two flaps and a strap, is now a stock similar to the one in A.
Does the arm brace make the firearm more deadly? For example, does it turn a semi-automatic weapon into a machine gun?
It doesn't turn the firearm into anything. All it is an orthotic device that allows you to fire that weapon in a more safe fashion.
What is the impact of this proposed rule, if enacted, to your company?
We'll go out of business. We'll go out of business. The ATF itself said that 4 of the 5 companies will go out of business in their impact study. They said that. So they know that they're doing this.
Has the federal government ever indicated to you that they would be willing to compensate you for shutting down your business?
Never.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know I'm out of time. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Fry.